Okay, welcome to US 2. This is Mr. Clarke here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a overview of the United States History 2 class. Keep in mind that this document is also posted on my teacher webpage and in Google Classroom. So everything I'm going to go through in a moment here is also in a written form, so you can kind of go through it more slowly and in more depth and detail if you wish. And I'm not going to read everything word for word. So as we go through, just kind of get an overview of what we'll be doing throughout the course of the school year. There'll be a wide variety of different skills that are emphasized in the United States History 2 class: social studies skills, civics, United States and New Jersey history, economics, geography, technology. And what this class does is it really picks up where the United States History 1 class left off. We're going to start out in the 1920s, and we'll kind of spend 100 years in American history right into contemporary times. So the Roaring Twenties is the period of time after World War One, and World War One is the last topic you would learn in United States history. One. So we'll see how the country kind of transitions in from a wartime to a peacetime economy. And we're going to see that after a brief recession, as soldiers returned home from the battlefield, and they're dealing with the uh, pandemic in the period of time at the end of World War One with the flu. We're going to see how we readjusted, and we'll see how the economy really took off during what is remembered as the Roaring Twenties. We'll see that all good things come to an end, and in 1929, at the very end of the 1920s, the stock market crashed in October 1929, ushering in the Great Depression. And we'll see how Franklin Roosevelt eventually comes into the presidency in 1933, passes a series of New Deal programs that really helps the United States get out of the Great Depression. We'll look at World War II and how the United States got involved in the war. We'll look at it from an American perspective. We'll see how we kind of mobilized in the home front and everything and all the sacrifices that were done both in the war and home front to help us to win World War II. We'll look at post-World War II America, the late 1940s into the 1950s, as we kind of transition into what is remembered as the Cold War. When you look at the Cold War, that is a undeclared war between the United States and the Soviet Union, where we kind of compete to dominate international events around the world. Look at the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks. We'll look at the Vietnam War, and a lot of our students have found over the years this to be one of the more interesting periods of time in history. We see where young people, right around the age of many of you, really step up in their teens and early 20s to kind of protest the war, and we kind of see the power of strength in numbers as a lot of the young people voice their opinions about the war. And this kind of takes us into the 1970s, where we're going to see a continuation of a wide variety of different protest movements, women fighting for equal rights, Native Americans, African Americans still fighting in the 1970s as well. We're going to see a lot of these different things during the 1970s. We'll look at the Nixon administration, Carter administration, take it into the 1980s, Reagan, Bush, move into the 1980s with Clinton, and then by the 2000s, we'll roll back to another Bush administration, Obama, Trump, and into the Biden administration as we take it right into the 21st century America. Other things I like to just point out: methodology. These are different things we'll be doing in class. Textbook and outside source readings. We have Mr. Clarke's recorded lessons, where I kind of take a lot of the broad topics into more detail and kind of give you all the main ideas that you should be familiar with. You'll have discussions based on assigned readings. We'll be analyzing primary source documents in preparation for essays, evidence-based writing. We'll have Google current event presentations, usually every other Friday throughout most of the school year. We'll have Google Classroom-based activities. Much of everything we do in class will be posted in Google Classroom, so you can kind of operate straight out of Google Classroom. Instructional objectives, kind of just going through the broad topics that we'll be doing in class. Okay, other expectations. Obviously, you're going to be required to do all the work. Classwork, homework, my recorded lessons, current events, pass all quizzes, tests, final exam. Kind of a key component is bringing a charged Chromebook to class every day, because we'll be working out of the Google Classroom platform on a daily basis. Really, we won't have any paper assignments or anything like that. Everything will be completed and submitted through Google Classroom. So make sure you bring that in charged every day. Textbook, United States History 2 textbook is the same textbook that you worked with for US 1. There's an online version of the textbook. In addition to that, I'll post a PDF textbook file for each individual topic or chapter, so you'll have that in Google Classroom to work out of as well. We'll have supplemental readings and writings and documents and other materials, teacher-made materials, my recorded lessons. The textbook, as I mentioned, the online textbook. There's a link there. That's a live link you can click on. The link is also separately posted in Google Classroom, and the same generic textbook password is used to access the book. Okay, the grading system. Obviously, it's always important to understand how you're going to be evaluated in any class. I'm sure most students are coming into class with a lot of hope and optimism, hoping to get an A in this course. And one of the most important things to kind of do is to decide on day one that you want to get an A, complete all work, get it all in on time, and it's almost a certainty that you do very well in this class. It's a point-based system, so we have a lot of different ways to earn points. Everything you do in class will be evaluated on that point basis. The most significant of which will be your projects, your chapter tests. Your test grades will be 300 to 500 points. So in Genesis, you'll see a 3.0 next to the assignment. So that means it's worth 3 times whatever grade you got on that 100-point scale. So for example, you got a 100, you'll earn 300 points for that assignment. If it was a 5.0 test and you got on 100, you're going to earn 500 points. Quiz grades, they're weighted less than obviously a test grade. So you might have a traditional quiz, which might be 250 points. You might have a current event, which might be 200 points, maybe a group assignment that might be 100 points. A film quiz might be 100 points. So along those lines, you get different points, and it'll just be based on the 2.5, 2.0, whatever it might be in Genesis. And then your homework and classwork, they're generally all 100-point assignments weighted at a 1.0 factor. The only classwork assignment that may be less than a full 100 points or a 1.0 scale might be a do now, which might only be a few minutes in time. So that might be a 0.5 in Genesis, and all that is clearly labeled in Genesis for you to follow. So keep in mind, virtually everything you do in class will be evaluated and added to your grade. As far as homework is concerned, I have a homework calendar that I update on a regular basis in Google Classroom. This document that you have access to in Google Classroom is also on my teacher webpage. You can just see the assignments populate as I add them in there. I usually do things about a month at a time. So once September's done, sometime by mid to late September, I'll put October's assignments in there, November, etc. So you can kind of work at your own pace. The assignments will be posted in Google Classroom. So if you have a busy night coming up for, let's say, another class, you have to study for a math test, you could always get your history homework done a little bit early, a day or two early. That way you have it done ahead of time and you can kind of focus on something else. You might have a sporting event or a club, or maybe you have a job. So you're old enough now to balance your own time wisely. And keep in mind, all the dates you see are the due dates. So if you see Friday, September 10th, that'll be due by 7 a.m. of that day, and you have to have that in on time. Okay, classroom rules and policies. Make sure your Chromebooks are charged when you come to class. If you don't have a charged Chromebook, you will not be allowed to charge them in class. We're not going to have students all over the room. So that's kind of a uniform basis, and I can't cut one student a break and not another. Or let's say I have 15 kids who want to charge their Chromebook. Well, then obviously I don't even have enough outlets in the classroom. So that'll be something you do on your own. Keep your Chromebook charged. Homework assignments, as I mentioned, due by 7 a.m. of their due date. I do not see Google Classroom notifications, so any communications have to be done, obviously, directly to me in class before or after school, or you could just send me a quick email. Be respectful in class, follow all directions, no multitasking. Water is the only thing you can bring to class. No food is permitted in class, nor any other beverages. All cell phones and earbuds, things like that, will be away during class. Assignments are submitted in Google Classroom and time stamped, so they're either on time or not. So that's kind of your responsibility. Current events program, and again, I'm not going to read every word here, but this is kind of your outline that you would follow for the current events. Every current event has to have an introductory section, a body, and a conclusion. In your conclusion, one of the more important things you do is you detect for bias to make sure that if there's a particular perspective or point of view in the article, you kind of identify that. That's one of the skills you have to develop as a person to kind of look at things, filter it, and kind of figure out where the truth actually is. Extra help, I'm in room 201 from around 7:10 to 8:30 every morning before school, 2:50 to 3:50 after school, and there's my email address there. Feel free to reach out anytime you wish. I also set up a virtual classroom. It's kind of a series of clickable links. There's a link for that there. So when you look at the virtual classroom, and I'll kind of bring it up here if I can. When you look at the virtual classroom, everything you see there is clickable links, biographies on presidents, the textbook link is there, the homework link's there. I'm a Dodger and Ram fan, just to share a couple personal notes there, little highlight videos there of my favorite team, a little tribute to the Liberty Bell, Star Spangled Banner's there, the flag salute. So if you click on all these different things, you can pretty much hit everything you wish. This whole document I just went through with the course information is there. If you want to email me, you can click on that link there. The textbook password's there. And then all the different chapters that we go through from the Roaring Twenties through contemporary times are there for you. And if you click on that there, my recorded lessons and additional film clips that you might want to look at are there for you. And that takes us right here into the Trump administration. Hopefully you enjoyed my introduction to the US2 course, and always keep lines of communication open. Feel free to email me or contact me at any point in time. And Mr. Clarke is out.